20th, 2019 meeting of the Alarm Systems Contractors Board. We welcome all of our visitors today. Ms. Vest, will you please call the roll?
Thank you. Scott Crockroff.
Here.
Doug Fraker.
Here.
Keith Harvey.
Here.
Vivian Hickson.
Here.
Lou Richard.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Have the members had an opportunity to review the agenda for today's meeting, and if so, a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt today's agenda. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fraker, second by Mr. Cockcroft to adopt our agenda as presented. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The agenda is adopted. Next, have the members had an opportunity to review the minutes from the April 11th, 2019 board meeting, and if so, a motion to approve?
Make a motion to accept the formal agenda as presented.
No, this is for the minutes.
I'm sorry, minutes. I said agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Harvey to approve the minutes from our April 11th, 2019 meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mr. Richards. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved. We want to welcome our new legal, I don't know what your title is, but I know your name is Jesse Gentry, and we welcome you to the board.
Well, I can do that. I'm sorry. I did probably mention him to a few of you, but we do have a new general counsel with us today. Wow. Jesse Gentry, and we'll go ahead and let him do his legal report.
All right, so we'll get started with 2019-022-811. Summary is the complainant stated that she received notice of a motion detector triggering an alarm in the home after complainant left. Complainant was called by respondent due to the alarm. However, complainant missed the calls because her phone was turned off. Complainant's daughter then received calls from the respondent about the alarm and agreed with respondent that law enforcement should be dispatched to the home. Later, complainant turned on her phone and was contacted by her daughter about the alarm and law enforcement's involvement. Complainant called respondent, and a customer service representative was unaware of the alarm being triggered or law enforcement being dispatched. Complainant stated law enforcement was never dispatched to the home and that she feared for her safety due to the complainant, should be respondent there, due to respondent allegedly never calling law enforcement after it was agreed to call them. Respondent agreed to cancel complainant's service and contract after complainant requested for this to occur. Complainant was dissatisfied with the service of respondent but wished for this case to close after service was canceled and equipment was returned. The recommendation is to close.
Make a motion to concur with council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Harvey, a second by Mr. Cockcroft to concur with our council's recommendation to close. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
And the next and last case we have before us is 2019-040371. The summary is the complainant alleging that respondent had sent an email promotion to complainant advertising for CCTV services. The email did not show a license number for the company or the employee sending it. An employee named is not licensed in any ASC classification. Respondent does not hold CCTV classification either. Respondent stated it will apply for CCTV classifications for its QA and will add its license number to the promotion sent. Respondent stated the employee sending the promotions is not registered because this employee only coordinates with customers from the respondent's headquarters in Missouri to discuss and contract for product services and makes arrangements for the date of installation. Respondent then has a licensed technician do the actual installation. Respondent's previous discipline, the letter of warning that's referenced above, was due to its failure to timely register employees. It's not clear whether this employee has actual knowledge of the information of or advertises customers in a manner that would require him to be registered, but it would appear so due to the amount of involvement he has with the customers. The recommendation is to authorize formal hearing and a total civil penalty of $1,000 for violations of Tennessee Code annotated Section 6232 304B, doing business without an appropriately certified qualifying agent, Section 6232 316D, advertising without certification number listed, and 6232 304K, no person shall advise anyone as to the need, quantity, or quality of an alarm system and sell the systems unless certified, licensed, or registered under this part.
I would agree with what your statement as far as the unlicensed activity on the CCTV, and most likely the employee does need to be registered. Only thing I would question would be the amount of the penalty, because this is a licensed alarm contractor, but they're not licensed in the proper category. Is this a similar penalty to what we would do if they weren't licensed at all?
I would think so. Realistically, I mean, based on this advertisement that they sent having multiple flaws with it, I think that they can easily rectify some of these. However, when we look at the recommended penalties being between $1,000 and $5,000, in terms of what we would set as put the $1,000 being on the lower end, since these are things that could be rectified, but it does have that range there of $1,000 to $5,000.
I was actually thinking that might be a little high.
Oh,
if,
okay.
if it is a licensed contractor, I'm open to other thoughts or input from the rest of the board, but I would be hesitant to place the civil penalty for a licensed company the same as one that was completely unlicensed. Granted, they're not licensed in the proper category, and they don't have an employee registered, but I think typically the civil penalty we do for an unregistered employee would be less, and then probably the category. I applaud you for looking to do some sort of a penalty, but instead of just a warning. Have any leeway for the amount of penalty?
My reading of the statute was that $1,000 was the minimum for those types of violations.
And I think that 1,000 is for a completely unlicensed company, like Mr. Cockcroft was saying. I believe the board does have some discretion in that, in what you find the violations to be. It doesn't sound like there's any dispute there, but there is some leeway for the civil penalty amount. I think it differs just a little bit because those prior companies are unlicensed completely.
I would make a motion to concur, with the exception of changing the civil penalty to $1,000. I mean, to $500 from $1,000.
I have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft to concur with our council's recommendation in the disciplinary action, but to reduce the civil penalty to $500.
I want a second for discussion. Aren't we saying this is a second offense for this company? Or am I misunderstanding that?
Yes, we are. The first offense was in 2016, and we sent a letter of warning. They had unregistered employees that were, I believe they were doing installations.
We're not just penalizing the civil penalty for unlicensed, but for also not having a qualifying agent and for working outside categories that they're licensed in.
As I say, they have a qualified agent, but the CCTV was not a classification that he held certification in. This was something when speaking with the respondent, they had indicated that they were recently deciding to start doing CCTV services. That's why they had added that to the promotion. They weren't sure if they were going to do it yet, and they hadn't gotten that certification yet. So they do have a qualified agent. He does have certifications, just not in CCTV.
So they decided to do it, but didn't bother to follow the laws to get the QA before you start doing it.
Correct.
I personally don't think the penalties are out of line.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, voice by saying aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Cockcroft, you going to vote?
I didn't vote. Do I have to
Well, you
vote
have
one way or
to
the other?
vote.
So I'll vote for it since I made the motion, but I'm willing to change
Okay.
my mind.
The motion is voted down. We need a new motion.
I'd make a motion to concur with the council's recommendation on the civil penalties.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Harvey, a second by Mr. Fraker to concur with our council's recommendation in its entirety. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I believe that's all the legal report that we have, but I wanted to,
You had it easy for the first time.
Well, we had numerous cases that the investigations had not come back yet. So
Okay.
unfortunately, we'll have about 8, maybe 9 next time.
Okay? Good job.
wanted to go on record, and I made when I introduced Jesse, I made a mistake there. I believe his title is Assistant General Counsel.
That's correct.
I gave him a big promotion, I believe.
Next on our agenda, if we're going to move to it, is the teleconference, or do we want to move to appearances next?
Well, we have called Mr. Evans once, but we're going to try again, if you allow us just a couple of moments, see if we can get him. Well, we asked him to call in, and he said, be sure and call me, so that's what we're doing.
You have reached the voicemail box of 423-972.
I'm going to put on the record that we were unable to reach Mr. Evans by phone. If you'd like, we could move right on to our appearances, but let me make a statement. We have anybody who would like to, that is on the agenda to appear, would you please sign in the that way you can remain seated and give the board time to review the material, then we'll just call you up to the podium. Let me get rid of that one. I believe the first one is Jesse Kowinski.
Kosinski?
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm going to have to recuse myself on this case.
Okay. Let the record reflect that Mr. Harvey's recusing himself.
Would you just give the board a couple of minutes? They have not seen this material in advance. Did you bring any material with you that the board would need to see?
No, ma'am.
Did you bring your criminal record so you would know what to expect when they asked you?
No, ma'am.
I will need that back, and please,
okay.
and please don't share that with anyone. That is
Okay,
for
yes,
your
ma'am.
Gentleman here, his application was presented to you before, and you did ask for his appearance. Have his court documents and his written explanations in the packet.
Have his letter before, did we?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
We ask you to come forward because of the recentness of the conviction and the probation violation. When did your second probationary period expire, and did you successfully complete probation?
The second one was successfully.
I apologize.
yeah.
This is not, we have to have you on record, and unfortunately, there's no microphone there, so we have to get you to sit. When you do start, kind
Yes,
of
ma'am.
start from the start again, so it is on the record.
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
You were arrested and you were placed on probation.
Yes, ma'am.
Your probation was not successfully completed, so you were
Correct.
given a second probation.
Correct. I was given a second term of the same exact amount, another 1129 on top, with the agreement that if probation fines were paid before the 1129, that they would terminate or suspend secondary term upon completion of payment.
Make sure this red band stays
There we
on,
go.
please. So you successfully completed that, and
Yes, ma'am.
when was that over?
I do not know the date off the top of my head.
Approximately what month?
That was over a year ago, about a year ago or so now. Was a second term of completion, of course. The original incident, the original arrest incident, which was not an arrest, it was a ticket, misdemeanor constructive possession. So that would have probably been about 4 years ago now.
Questions?
Give us some insight on the violation of the probation? What
The violation
what was-
of probation was a failed drug test. It was a failed drug test. I had my final probation meeting on the 11th month, 27th day. On the 28th day, they gave me a surprise meeting in which I had indulged and made a horrible decision, and of course cost me a whole nother year of probation, several $1,000s in fines, which was obviously a huge mistake and a huge setback for everything involved.
Are you still using marijuana?
No, ma'am.
Not at all.
No, ma'am. Since all this has happened, I've changed pretty much everything. Obviously, the company you keep says a lot about who you are. I've changed the company I keep as well as the jobs that I keep. I no longer just do cabinets and construction. I'm trying to be into a career. A good job has benefits, company vehicle. that you have to live a healthy, clean lifestyle. You have to be able to pass drug tests, to have insurance and things of that nature. So a lot has changed since that time, absolutely.
Sir, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Chris Owens, qualified.
Chris Owens?
Yes, ma'am. OW. Sorry, I'll talk slow as well. OWENS, Chris Owens. Jesse, we work hard on our culture at ADS. We want positive, upbeat people. We don't allow infighting between different teams, sales, service, install. Jesse's a good team player. He comes to work every day. I believe him when he says he's not using marijuana today. He takes jobs we give him. I think he didn't have any burglar alarm experience before we hired him in February. I actually wrote the dates down, but we hired him in February, February the 4th. Since then, he's doing small resi all-in-ones, pretty much by himself. The team likes working with him. Customers like the interactions. We don't have complaints. I have no concerns about Jesse being a good representation of our industry and our company today.
Does your company do routine drug screens on its employees?
We do drug screens. We do random drug testing, but we also have the ability if I think somebody may be partaking, I can send them at any time. And we've done it once or twice and had results that we expected to have from the people we saw that were acting a little bit different. That, of course, passed the initial drug screen for the company.
More questions?
What have we done in the past for other drug testing or contingent upon?
In the past, I think the company may not have done random screens, as Mr. Owens has indicated his company does, and they've entered into an agreed order that they would submit results to the board. They would essentially be on a probationary period with the board for a renewal cycle. If at any time those screens came back that showed they were positive for any drugs that they were tested for, their registration would be revoked at that time.
How would we, are you saying that we would or wouldn't do that because they do their own random testing? Or
I think that's the board's discretion. I think the last time that the board directed me to draft such an order, the company did not necessarily do random drug screens. At least that was what they stated to the board. But I think Mr. Owens said that company does, and they have the ability to do that at any time.
I'll make the motion that we approve the registration for Jesse Kozinski.
Don't feel bad. I work for him, and he still does
Trust
it
me,
well.
I get my name butchered also, so.
I'm calling colonoscopy this morning.
He called me colonoscopy before we did.
We have a motion by Mr. Fraker to approve Mr. Krasinski's,
second?
and a second by Mr. Cockcroft. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And that will be with an agreed order.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
We didn't,
Just for clarification, okay, so the motion was just to approve it, not necessarily.
You want it to include y'all want it to include the agreed order?
well, that wasn't the way the motion was made. I was
No, I know,
seconding
but-
his motion the way it was. But
Do you
just
want it
with
to-
approval.
No.
All right.
Since
forget
the
agreed-
company provides drug screening, if they see an issue, they're going to handle it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thought maybe he was trying to get in the other door. I believe our next appearance is a Travis Lambor.
Yes.
Did I pronounce that correctly? Oh, okay.
That's a first.
Thank you. Oh, okay, thank you. All right, good. Did you sign in, sir? All right.
Do you want me to approach the podium as well?
Yes, that'll be fine, uh-huh. Did you bring any additional information or anything with you?
I have a copy of everything I've submitted to the board already.
All right, thank you.
Give us just a few minutes to review your file.
You know, I don't worry about the little stuff.
It's for a monitoring center.
No, solicitor permit.
The main office is out of Utah.
That's right, Provo, Utah. That's correct.
So what is Smart Home Pros Incorporated?
Same company.
I actually believe she mean, if you're going to be a registered employee, you're going to be in sales, you're going to be in installation, or what are you going to be doing?
Sales, ma'am.
Okay, sales.
Well, am I reading there's two different times? Is that right? Or is there that, 3 times?
There's 3 different cases, yeah.
3 different cases.
Yes, sir.
Got lost one into the other. Sorry. Trying to read all the legal.
Can you briefly, could you just briefly tell us, like, maybe the dates of these 3 incidents and just, I've got, I mean, your written statements here, they don't have the dates on them as far as putting all this in order.
On the beginning of each of those court documents, there's the closing date. However, the most recent was on January 9th, 2016. So that case has been brought to a close. What had happened is I was driving under a temporary registration that had just expired that day. I was under the impression that I had a whole nother week, but of course I was pulled over and the officer had found a small amount of marijuana in my car, and then apparently I was operating with my firearm when I wasn't supposed to. I was under the impression as long as it was in a locked case and it wasn't accessible that I was driving legally, but that wasn't the case, and so they had asked me to take a firearm safety course, which I completed, and then the case was closed.
So they're in reverse order here, so I guess is maybe what we're looking at. So the most recent was that one.
I think, is that the most recent? Because it says you moved back to Utah in 2017.
Yes, I did. So I had grown up in Utah, but I had moved to New Hampshire, and I stayed there for a 4-year period, which is when, at that time in 2016, on January the 9th, is when the most recent court case had happened. The 2 in the past were in 2012 in Utah and also in 2011, both of which were closed in 2013.
So what was the drug felony? You had a felony drug charge.
In May of 2011, I was arrested for possession and use of heroin. Since that had happened, I have been clean ever since. I had attended a 90-day intensive rehab.
This says on January the 9th of 2016, you had a felony drug charge.
It was marijuana in the vehicle, and that was pled guilty to. And so I was asked to be put on a 12-month good behavior probation and then complete the firearm safety course for the improper transportation of my firearm.
Know what made that a felony? Was it the firearm and the possession, or was it the amount
I
of the
believe
possession?
so. I would honestly have to contact my prior lawyer to find out exactly as to why. I have no probation.
Are you any longer using any type of illegal drugs?
No, ma'am.
For 3 years, 5 months, 12 days.
Do y'all screen your applicants?
Randomly, yes.
Working in Utah, or are you going to be working in Tennessee?
I'll be working in Tennessee. The majority of our sales reps are from Utah, and we travel during the summer times, typically from the end of April to the beginning of September, and we knock doors to sell our product.
Questions? Have a motion.
Does leave us with a lot to think about. I know that typically in the past, with our board cases, it's drug charges like that, handling, and not too distant past. We'd like to see a little more time have passed and life be headed down a straight road for a good long period of time. So I think that's what our dilemma is here.
Personally, it's the heroin charge and felony is and it is the oldest charge, but that's the troubling, the most troubling for me.
I completely understand where you're coming from. With that being 8 years ago, it has given me that amount of time to stay away from it, and that I have. I understand that there was a marijuana charge in 2016, but I have been clean and sober since then, and I have completely turned my life around. I'm here to work as hard as I can to provide for my family. I'm getting married in September, and I've made a turn for the better. I've become a religious person since then, and I pride myself on making good decisions.
So in 2016, there was a marijuana charge and the weapons charge, and that was a felony.
Yes, sir. But it was reduced to the misdemeanor. I believe it was a Class C or Class A. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah, Larry Evers.
Well, let's hear your opinion of working with this man. How do you feel?
Relatively short period of time. He's been here since April, mid. Like a fine young man. He's trying to turn his life around.
All you got? you realize we're looking for something here.
I could give you more.
I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Larry?
Larry,
Evers.
are you in Utah?
I'm in
or
Virginia.
You're in Virginia, okay. So you're not actually working with them hand in hand, you don't see them most of the time?
Not every day.
All right.
I provide a lot of the training initially for the fellows, or for the, and women. Self-directed. It takes a certain person to get out there. To have a certain amount of control, self-awareness. Whoops. Sorry about that. Yeah, like I say, I'd recommend we give him another.
So when you complete your summer tour here of door-to-door sales, you go back to Utah?
Yes, ma'am.
Will you come back again in the future, or?
I'd like to.
I mean, is that part of the company's routine, is they're here, then they're back, and?
They go to different markets. It could be Tennessee, it could be Virginia, it could be Florida. It really depends on how they have a sort of a draft system, almost like the NBA. Certain ones are very motivated and successful, and they get picked up by higher, more successful teams. It really depends on his performance this year as to what team he would end up on, ultimately which market he would be directed to. Very well could be Tennessee, if that's allowed, but could be anywhere.
I'd make a motion that we grant Mr. Lamborn his employee registration.
We have a motion by Mr. Harvey to grant Mr. Limborn's employee registration. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mr. Fraker. All in favor, voice by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sure to see it. That guy should be better on drug screen.
Hello? Is this Mr. Evans? Yes. Okay, great. Can you please mute your phone and then we'll get back with you in just a little bit? Yes. Thank you.
You would look at his written explanation. It does list each case number. It has that he was charged with. It makes it a whole lot easier to record. But it makes it easier and easier to read.
Cody, we're ready to call them up.
All right, Mr. Sanders, are you ready to come up? Would you please bring your qualifying agent with you as also? Or up with you, please. Sir, if you would, make sure the red light's on every time you speak.
Okay,
Introduce yourself.
my name's Mark.
I think they want you to start the conversation.
Okay.
Tell us about yourself, Mr. Sanders.
Well, you know, I wrote this letter as requested for explanations. It was a very hard letter, difficult letter to write. That part of my life was so far gone and behind me that reliving it, you know, I guess it started when they told me they needed to see my criminal history. So I Googled myself. Didn't care for that part too much, but then I actually paid for a background check. I've been verified. I don't know what one of those companies, and then a lot of emotions started flooding back in, and back to this letter when they asked for explanations. It was difficult, and that explanation and an excuse. I don't know. There's got to be a line in there somewhere, and some of it I felt like I was making an excuse. There truly is no excuse for my previous behavior. I was a horrible drug addict, and I guess that's addictive behavior. I guess there were some psychological issues as a child that led me to some of those things. But I did what I did. I'm very sorry that I did them. At the time, I was probably just sorry that I got caught. But now, as a different man, I'm just, I try to hold fast to what one's done is maybe what's made them who they are today. So I try to find comfort and solace in that.
So when was your last arrest?
My last arrest was May 10th of 2004, over 15 years ago. And that was also my last drug use.
It shows 25 years as a habitual offender. Are you on any type of paper at this time?
No, ma'am. That was scary. That was probably the first time I've ever actually been scared. Other than the first time I walked into a jail cell. But when they told me, habitual offender and 5 years to 25 years, that was incredible. Fortunately, I was able to just do the 5. I was released on parole for a 2-year parole period on 9/22/09, and then released from parole on 9/22/2011.
Oh, it's the 2009. What happened then?
I got out of prison.
Oh, okay. And then
parole.
released from parole 2 years later.
Yes, I was released. That charge was the only charge that did not happen in Florida. That was the most recent one in 2004, and so I was released on parole in Michigan, and I did my parole in Tennessee. I transferred my parole to Tennessee and did 1 year Michigan, 1 year Tennessee.
Had no arrest since 2004, correct?
I've had a speeding ticket, but that's it.
Tell us about yourself, your life since your parole.
Can you clarify?
What have you done since 2004 after you got out of prison in Michigan?
Well,
bring us forward to today.
Well, I was really happy in Michigan. I kind of found myself, after getting out of prison. I had a church family that just, loved me and accepted me. It made me value myself maybe for the first time and ever. And, we still stay in touch today. One family, my mom calls Ed Goebel, who wrote one of the letters. I guess he's not a big writer, but he's like a godfather to me. And then he has a son, Paul, and his wife, Nancy, and they have 4 kids, and they call me Uncle Mark. And we go on golf outings once a year, and I go up and visit them once or twice a year. But to answer the question, my parents were aging. I was the only child. We reconciled, which I think was a blessing in itself, because we just didn't really have that great of a relationship. I was a bad kid, and but anyway, they forgave me. I forgave them, and so we were able to get our relationship back on track. So I moved to Tennessee because, again, they were aging and they needed me. My Pastor Brian, had told me, try to find a job, because my jobs are always car sales, drug addict, hustler, dealer, whatever, anything I could do to get high. I was able to slide through under the carpet, so to speak, in car sales, because most successful car salesmen have some type of addiction. So I went on to college. My pastor said, find a job that you get to go do instead of you have to go do. As a teenager, I worked on a golf course, loved it. So that first year in Michigan, I went to work at a country club to see if I was physically able to do the work. Turns out I was. So I found a turf school, Morristown, Tennessee. So, I lived in and found that, that was something that was great for me. I graduated summa cum laude, took extra classes in soil sciences, and I was just really pleased with that. Unfortunately, afterwards, the job openings for that field were very limited. In fact, there were 0 in the Tri-Cities area. I did get offered a job at Oakmont Country Club, which any golfer will know that's you could write your own ticket. You work for them for 5 years, you can pretty much be a superintendent anywhere in the world. But I couldn't leave. My parents didn't feel like I wanted to leave them. Got offered a job at Calabasas Country Club in California with the Kardashians are members at, which was kind of cool. When they told me they'd pay me $28 an hour, I got really excited about that till I found out it would take me 3 weeks' pay to rent a room. So, so that's where I'm at. I've started working for Defenders. What a great company. Just as evidenced by them sending 2 representatives to be with me here today. After suspension because I didn't have a license, I didn't have an earning opportunity, and yet the regional manager saw fit to send me to Savannah for a few weeks so that I had an opportunity to earn. They've been very, very good to me. When I went to Indianapolis for training, I guess I drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak, and I feel that, what a great opportunity to as they say, keep, bad things from happening to good people. And it's just an honor to work for a company like that. And I'd really appreciate it if you guys let me continue that.
What do you do for the company?
I am an installer. Okay. I'm in installation, but, just like, I guess most companies, they do what they do to get you to the house. I don't have to knock on doors like that poor fella that was here before me. But so there's the leads are already there. The people are expecting me when I get there, and I'm there to install their security system. And I'm also there as a security advisor in the capacity to let them know, what ADT would feel is best to secure their home and property.
Any more questions? Have a motion.
Would you mind if we heard from the qualifying agent?
Hello, John Sorrell, the QA with Defenders Inc. We were happy with the interview process. He was forthcoming. We sent him out to the field, and I've heard great things. His direct manager has come as a show of support, and him, if you believe in redemption, he's the poster child.
So you have no complaints or internally or complaints from customers?
None.
Okay.
I make the motion that we grant Mr. Sanders his registered employee license.
We have a motion by Mr. Fraker. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mr. Richard. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Continued good luck.
Mr. Evans was on the phone. We're going to see if we can get him again. He was in California. He is in California. So
Mr. Evans, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Evans, we're going to give the board just a couple of minutes to review your file because I've not seen this previously, so hang on.
Okay.
Evans, this is Miss Vest. Where are you calling in from?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand that.
I said, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm actually on the last leg of a journey on a 20-hour drive to Texas to work.
So right now you're in Texas.
Yes.
All right. Where's your home state?
Tennessee.
Okay, you're from Johnson City.
Yes.
All right, and your company's located in California.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Hold on.
Okay.
Madam Chair, he's on. Mr. Evans, you still with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir, are you on hands-free?
Yes.
I just want to make sure we don't start asking you questions and you're driving.
No. I'm actually a passenger right now, so I'm okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I want to have a wreck, and then say I was talking to the state of Tennessee and made me wreck.
So you're applying as a registered employee for which company, Mr. Evans?
Mr. Evans? Mr. Evans?
He's gone.
Okay, I believe we lost the gentleman. God must have had. No. He's calling back. He might have hit a dead zone. That's the only thing about traveling in the car.
He's back.
Mr. Evans? Hello?
I'm here.
Okay. Did you hear the chair ask your question?
No, I did not.
All right, we'll repeat it.
Right after I was on the handstand.
Okay, sir.
Mr. Evans, you're applying for a registered employee with which company?
Skyline Security.
And what will you be doing for Skyline?
Installing personal and residential and business security systems.
In Tennessee?
Yes.
Mr. Evans, when was your last arrest and what was it for?
It was, let's see, probably a year ago for drug paraphernalia.
Are you currently on probation?
Yes.
That was board member Mr. Richards has asked you that question. So you're still on probation?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
I believe I have a couple more months of probation. After my arrest, I had done a few days in jail, and I went to rehab and finally got my life back on track.
So what did you, this Ms. Vest again, did you say you finished rehab?
Yes, I went to rehab and completed it. And I've worked the Skyline ever since I completed the rehab.
Okay, the question is, when did you finish rehab?
I finished rehab in December of this year, December of last year.
December of 18.
Yes.
Mr. Evans, this is Chairman Hickson. Has your probation been revoked or extended for any reason?
No, ma'am. I'm current and up to date on everything. I only lack a little bit to pay it off. They can put it off that.
Mr. Evans, this is Scott Cockcroft. Just looking at your record and with some of the recent charges, in your opinion, why do you think we should approve you? What do you think's changed drastically?
The drastic change that I had is I actually admitted I had a problem. And with someone like me, that's really hard to do this morning.
Okay.
Going and going and going. Not trying to get help when you need it. Well, I finally broke down and I asked for help. And I did get that help. I received the form of rehab. And I received it in the form, I think, that allows me to help other people. I really enjoy the job that I do, helping people feel more secure about their life and how they live, and not have to worry about being at home or anything like that. I can help them feel better about themselves. Yeah, I went to rehab. I took everything they told me, and I applied it. And ever since then, my life has been 100% better.
So, Mr. Evans, you're scheduled to complete your probation somewhere around August of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
And you will have all your fines and so forth paid by that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to work at this time for the company but in some other state?
That's what I'm doing currently. I'm actually in Texas working for them. I'm just trying. I would really love to be back home in Tennessee and be able to work for them.
Are you licensed in Texas?
Yes.
How long have you held the Texas licensing?
Actually, I think it should go in effect today.
Go into effect today? I think
Yes.
what he said. Okay.
Mr. Evans, as a general rule, we typically do not grant employee registration to people who is under current probation periods. We usually like to see them at least get to the end of that period straight and clean and clear. I think I think that's part of the dilemma that we have here on the board today. I think you'd have a lot better chance in coming back to us at that time. Might be a little more clear to have us a little something a little clearer to look at that time.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
It's also, this is Scott again, it's also a very recent, they're very recent charges as well that's also concerning. I mean, I would love to see that you have turned things around, but I'd like to see more time, I guess, before we're approving a license that we're actually would be bending the rules to allow you to do it when you do have all these charges.
Right. I understand.
Are we agreeable to passing this till the August meeting and then see if he's completed it?
What would
I feel a whole lot better about it then, but I would feel slightly better if it were right.
How could we do that? Would we have to reapply, or what would we need to do today?
I think those are the two different actions. If the board votes to deny this application, Mr. Evans would have to reapply, but I believe Chairman Hickson is suggesting that you defer ruling on the application until August to see if he has completed the probation and then make a decision at that time. So those are two different actions.
I'm not opposed to pushing the ruling off until then. Even I realize he's from out of state. Maybe I don't know if we could get more information or.
My understanding, I think he's from Tennessee. He's just working out of state now.
Yes, sir. He's located in Johnson City, so your next board meeting is August. So perhaps, if you wish, we could ask him to come in August if he's in Tennessee.
We've pushed him to Texas. So.
All right, Mr. Evans, did you hear that?
Kinda, yes. I kinda understood what you're saying.
Okay, I think what I'm asking, could you make the appearance in August to the board meeting?
Absolutely.
And do you think you could arrange for your supervisor, your qualifying agent, to accompany you?
Yes, of course.
You can provide the name, whoever that is, to the staff. But we'll plan on seeing you in August.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we do. Go ahead.
I'd make a motion that we postpone judgment on Mr. Evans until the August board meeting, and assuming that his probation has been completed and is in compliance at that point, that we would make a ruling at that time and have him appear before us and go over his situation.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Harvey. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second to defer this until the August board meeting pending completion of probation, etc. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All
We need a
opposed?
roll call vote for a teleconference.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a vote. Keith Harvey?
Aye.
Doug Craig?
Aye.
Vivian Hickson?
Aye.
Lou Richard?
Aye.
Scott Cockcroft?
Aye.
Okay.
Ayes have it.
Mr. Evans, what the board has decided is not to vote on your employee registration today, but to give you an extension to complete your probation and appear before the board in August for reconsideration.
Okay. That sounds good to me.
All right, sir. You will be getting correspondence from the office with the invite to appear.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for calling in and talking with us.
You guys have a good day.
All right, sir. Bye.
We have more appearances here currently.
We have another appearance for something entirely different, but if you would mind, I'd like to take a short.
Okay. I don't even know what time it is. We're going to take a 20-minute recess.
Don't put that in there.
I need to go down.
Sorry. All right, Madam Chair, we had a little glitch in our equipment, but I do believe that we are back online. As I was saying, Mr. Sneed has asked to appear. When I spoke to Mr. Sneed, does not believe that he needs to reapply or reinstate. His licenses have expired. He did make an attempt to pay, came into the office, he came in downstairs. He'll need to tell you what happened down there. Whenever they take money, they have to have somewhere to put it. Well, his license already expired, therefore there was nowhere to place the money. So the money went into an unassigned file. So we still do have I believe it's $260 of his. But I'll let him explain that to you. Mr. Sneed, would you please? I hope I said that right.
Yes, Ms. Oh, when I came in, everybody had a little name tag, so I thought I'd scratch out one while I was waiting. A little bit of humor.
You need to speak up, Mr.
That's
Sneed.
right. I forgot. These
Please.
things have to light up. I told everybody that. Ms. Vest gave you the abbreviated summary of the situation. If I may, I'd like to go back to when the state began licensing as a grandfathered company in QA. Well, there is no grandfather business, but there is a grandfather in the QA. Back then, it was more expensive to renew your license then than it is now. I think the price went down. So a lot of this issue began when there was a separation of the renewal times. So I had my QA renewed back in the 80s or 90s when the state took over. And then as I found a location uptown, I rented that and then got the business side of it. So there was always this separation of dates to renew. It wasn't always at the same time. Years ago, it was a lot simpler to keep up with it. As time goes on, there's more complications, more things to think about. Now, we just experienced a computer glitch. When I was trying to renew my QA license, and before it expired, if I can look at my dates, when I tried to renew that before the expiration of April 30th of 2017, I sent in the CEUs, and then I tried to submit payment at that time, but the computer wouldn't let me. That Tennessee I-Core was fairly new then, but it wouldn't let me do it in 2017. I think Pat Gillespie was still upstairs. Was he still here in 17? And whoever I talked to, I believe it was him, that's usually who I went to, I was going to bring it in. Of course, I just live in Springfield. I work at the railroad, just right around the corner. But at some point, got over here and brought it in downstairs. But the day I brought it in was 91 days after it expired. So on August 1st, I was having some trouble with the cashier downstairs. Somebody from upstairs came down. We talked in the lobby. She took me over to the back of the lobby, the cashier, and he took the payment. Reluctantly, he wanted somebody from upstairs to confirm this. It's okay, and they said yes. He turned in the CEUs. It was just a payment issue because of computer glitch. Wouldn't let him do it online. So that was in August 1st of 2017. Now, I wasn't aware, and no one told me I was aware, that there was an issue with the business license side of it too. But I was told there was computer issues why I couldn't renew. There were some software issues at that time. I have no reason to let my business license expire if I was told I should be keeping up with it, but I always got a letter in the mail. I don't throw my letters away, but the postman could have put it somewhere else. Kids could have thrown it away, slipped in the junk mail. But whatever the case, the business license lapsed. Well, we didn't know that until just 2 or 3 months ago when I tried to renew again. And this time on time. So on April 21st, I sent him a CEUs before I thought my license or QA was going to expire on April 30th. And at that point, that's when it was discovered that it wouldn't take the money part of it because the business license expired. I said, okay, well, what we got to do? Ms. Vess said it was beyond her authority. Said there's 2 things you can do. Reapply. Well, that sounds pretty simple, but I like looking on the computer and seeing that little grandfather clause there. I'm not going to be in business too much longer, but that means something to me. So she said I'd have to get fingerprints. Well, I work for the railroad. I'm an elected official, and I have a taxi cab business. All of those things require FBI background checks and fingerprints, so that would be a really redundant thing to have to do. And so the state has appointed the members of this board to handle situations. You have the authority to make these decisions where Ms. Vess said that she couldn't. So I'm requesting that this board see the issue of mail being lost or whatever y'all want to see. I don't know what you have before you or how much I need to expound on this, but I think I sent a letter I pecked out on my phone. I asked Miss Williams if I could resend it so I could clean up my typo and errors that the spell check messed up, but I never got around to it, so that's what you got in front of you. Just wait for any questions and I'll close.
Business license taken care of now? Is it up to date?
No, everything's pending what we do here today.
You're talking about like a regular county or city business license, or?
I believe Mr. Sneed is talking about his company license that expired in 2016. It has not been renewed.
Okay, because I was confused on that because I didn't think we were verifying business licenses or like the county or city license.
I believe what he would have to receive the renewal, do the renewal, just like, that was for the company that expired in 2016, and then he told you about his qualifying agent license that expired. He had 3 months from 4/30. 5, 6, 7. And if you look at the check, this is why I said I could not assist him. If you look at the check, it is dated 8/1, and Mr. Sneed did come in person and give that check. I cannot be in a position to have auditors sit down in front of me and ask me why I took something that the statute says I could not take. Therefore, I told him he could come before the board and ask you. The problem that gentleman's going to have is he was grandfathered.
Right.
If he reapplies, he has to take all the exams. He has to do the fingerprint cards, a fingerprint background check. Excuse me, we don't do cards anymore. He has to provide. He has the education. Would take it out of his file and move it on over to the other file, and he'd have to provide us with a photo, of course.
We've seen CEUs that were for the period that were taken during the period that
That's not in question. Yes, sir. He gave us. That's
we've
true.
got CEUs for the old period, the new period.
Yes, sir.
We've gotten payments for the old period.
That's what's in question. We got the check on 8/1 for $260.
Is that the right amount?
Yes, so that was for the late fees and everything. Yes.
For the QA only, not
For the QA.
not the
That's all I
contractor's
have in front of me
business.
is the QA. Yes.
So when did the company license expire?
It was
9/30 of 16.
I'm sorry, I didn't know
That's
he was
it.
right.
Yes, sir. I just had to find it on my paper.
It was 9/16, but the reason it was different renewal time from the business to QA, like I said, they're more expensive then than they are now, and I was waiting to get an office set up.
So you didn't have a company at the time, or the?
Not back in the 80s or 90s. When did the state start doing this? Because they used to just operate with a city business license.
Yes, sir. I believe the law started in the early 90s, 92, 93.
then I was just operating out of my basement, just put in. I used to just operate just out of my basement. It wasn't real serious, but as it looked like with the new licensing, the new insurance requirements and things like that, well, I'm going to have to get more serious with it. You're either going to have to get in or get out. So I had the QA. I knew that was coming because of grandfather things. Used to go to all the conventions. Mr. Roberts, who used to be on this board, he got me started in it. But so
I want to help you, and I'm inclined to do so. I'm just trying to figure out where we are. It looks like the CEUs were all there. How did you send those in?
Well, sent in I-Corps, but it wouldn't take the check back in 17. So I brought it in. I come through here almost daily, going to work or here at the Gulch. But probably, what was the date written on check? Was it just laying in my truck already written?
8/1/17.
It says 8/1/17.
Oh, so I wrote it that day. So I brought it with me and on the way to work. But it just happened to be one day after 90 days, and that was the only issue I was aware of about any expiration. So I thought, well, I didn't know there's a problem until I tried to renew again this year, but when I tried to do it on April 21st, there again, I could send them a CEUs that I'd collected for the last 2 years. And then when I called, that's when it was discovered the reason is not computer not taking the check. It's because the business license expired. Now, obviously, when the state started regulating this back in the, what year was it again, Ms. Bass? 90s?
I believe 93, 94, yes, sir.
There wasn't an issue with having a QA and not a business at the same time. Something must have happened along the line because I had a QA and not a business until 7 months later.
I thought we could have an inactive QA, but maybe it wasn't set up that way. But I thought we could have a QA license renewed without a company license renewed.
Right, we do that. The licenses I consider to be very expensive. The QA can renew, then the license sets, they have to give me a statement that says they're not working until they get a company affiliation.
How often
then we just transfer.
do the company license renew?
Every 2 years.
So he's not renewed his company for 2 renewal periods, correct?
16. It expired in 16, be 7 and 8, yes. Uh-huh.
But really, looking at this documentation, this is really about his QA, not the company. So let's don't mix the two.
So what is the status of what's the status of your company though?
Well, I got an office on Courthouse Square, just
So
like I
you're
have
still
for
in
25
operation.
years.
You're still operating a business.
Well, I mean, I work at the railroad, got taxis, I'm a union officer.
We're
I
not
don't
talking about
really-
that. I'm
I
talking
don't-
about the
well,
alarm
I'm not really
business.
do a lot. I don't do a lot of alarms anymore. All I
But you're
can do-
still in the alarm business as of today.
Well, they told me not to be active in it until we got this resolved, but, I mean, I've still got hundreds of customers that need a battery change or something, but as busy as I am doing other things, this is not my primary income.
So to me, we're looking, let's kind of try to compartmentalize this thing, because I, once upon a time, had a QA license without a company. So to me, I think we need to work on fixing the QA part.
Thank you. He's here today because of the qualifying agent.
Because of the qualifying agent.
He's asking you, can he renew, I believe, his qualifying agent license?
Well,
And literally, we're talking
I
about.
think I did do all of those things, and the reason that the check was accepted on August 1st of 2016 was because I had on time sent in the CEUs, but I was told on the phone it was a computer reason why it wouldn't take the money. So when I did bring it in, they said, yes, he tried to do this earlier, but there was a computer issue. We're going to take the check because it couldn't do it online because of computer issues. So that was really not my fault that it wouldn't take the payment on time then. Now, just because it was 90 days plus 1, that's just...
Well, and the other thing there that doesn't make sense is stopping a QA license from being renewed for a company license, because the QA license would have to be renewed to
We didn't do that.
to
We
do the
didn't-
company
that's-
license.
That's not even the issue.
Why didn't it
Scott.
renew then?
What?
Why wouldn't it let him do it online then?
I don't have any idea why the computer did not let him renew online.
Because I can testify to the online. It's
Oh,
hard
well,
to
I
use.
don't dispute that.
You
but
had to
then-
walk mine through 2
Yes,
years
sir.
ago. I couldn't.
I do agree
And it was
with that.
very difficult. I just renewed
So,
again.
Mr. Sneed, your statement is you attempted to make payment online to renew your QA license in 2017. Was it before or after April the 30th?
Believe it was after April 30th, but before that 90 days expired. So it was within that period of time. I just have to add $20 for whatever period of time, whatever late it was. I think I was maybe waiting for another CEU. I can't remember. I just don't remember that part, but I know it was started after April 30th. So that's just a matter of paying a late fee. But the CEUs were put in time. I don't. You'd have to see what the CEUs
We
got
got
in.
the CEUs. We're not disputing that. We did. I don't, that I don't know.
But I know it was before 90 days, so way before. It's just a matter of getting over here and finding a parking spot when I'm driving around the corner to go to work to bring that check in. And of course, every time in the last few years when I try to come in, you got to dump your pockets in your truck, go through security. And you used to be able to go upstairs, and now you can't go upstairs. And
Yes, sir.
Welcome to
That's-
post 9/11.
You cannot do that anymore. Yes, sir. Okay, let's just kind of streamline this down just a little bit. I don't know what happened with the computer. A lot of people renewed. A lot of people had difficulty, and we assist whoever needs help. His qualifying agent license expired on 9/30/16. Went ahead and sent in some CEUs, whatever else that he needed to do.
No, his qualifying agent expired on April the 30th. His business
Oh, I'm sorry.
expired on 9 the 30th.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
The qualifying age is 4/30/17 was when it expired. All right, so we got the continuing education in. On 7/31/17, we received a change of address for the
what change of address?
7/31/17, we got a change of address. Did you change your company or your person?
I may just use my house instead.
On the computer, but you did it on the computer, on Core. So my question, from 17 to now, what have, I
Well, we
haven't had
had-
correspondence.
Right, we've had his payment, so he thought he was good, the way I'm reading all
So
this.
you can think you're good, but everybody knows you need to get a license. I mean, you're members, you all have licenses. If you don't get one, you contact me.
I've also waited a long time
Well, I
in the
don't-
process where Pat told me it was on its way, and then Pat later on said, "Oh, well, you need something else because it took too long." And it's like, well, Pat, why didn't you tell me that? I mean, I've been on his side, so
I'm
it's,
not
and I think
saying
he
that.
made.
I'm trying not make.
I think the man made a valiant effort.
I'm not going to say he didn't.
He should have looked for it in the mail. Yes.
I'm just telling you, he's past the time. I cannot
Right.
legally on my side do it, and that's why he's before you. You either approve it that he can do a renewal, or we're going to have to tell him he has to reapply. Since he was grandfathered, if he has to reapply, he would have to take all the exam, whatever classifications.
Is
he's
the
in.
only issue the qualifying agent really at this point? We can
No,
you
sir.
can deal with the company.
That's the only thing for you today.
Okay.
But
Well, I would
then-
make a motion that we, I don't know how to state this, but I want to
Mr.
say that
Krakow.
his, yes,
If we can today, add to the agenda, make a motion to add to the agenda. As an alderman, I'm kind of overextending myself, but add to the agenda to try to take care of the business license too and make them the same date where you can't
I'm
add to
going to
the
lump it
agenda.
all together.
Okay.
I don't think we can really do that. I do think that you may have to pay some penalties on the company license. You may have to do some things to reapply there. I'm willing to work with you on the qualifying agent, but I don't think I think the company you can handle without any input from us. It may require some money, but there is some fault on both sides because you probably should have looked for the license.
I'm not saying I'm not without fault, but when I called at 2017, when it was earlier on, with just a few months past, I was told it was a computer issue and just bring it in. But
Bring in your company license renewal or your QA renewal.
no, just the QA. That's what I was dealing with.
We're
and-
talking, let's put the company business aside.
If
But
we,
his
if we make his QA current, or, then he can renew his company with fees and other things, right? You can handle all that administratively, renewing his company. I'm going to want to, but you can't.
No, I'm not, no, I mean, no, it's not that I don't want, no, that's not really it. I'm trying to think how I can do that, because it expired in 17. I got the money, I can move it, I have to think in my mind, excuse me, I got to move the money over, got to make sure everything's okay, get the photo, because I have that. I pushed the button, be 17, 18, 19. He's missed a renewal cycle, be another renewal cycle.
Well, he's
I would-
technically default on 2 company renewals and 1 QA.
One QA renewal,
He
but
tried,
yes, it's just the way the
he tried to
computer
renew
works.
on the first QA, and now it's time for the second renewal
Second
on
renewal.
the QA.
But I don't think the computer will do it like that. It's probably just going to roll him over for the, what is it, 17, 8 years. But that's something we can do with our computer system. If I get
You can
to,
move the money that's already in some.
yes, unassigned, yes.
unassigned
There's not any,
file.
yes. For this renewal here of, yes, of the QA from 17, you paid the $260 for that. I can take care of that.
Still owes now for his current QA renewal.
Computer would, yeah, technically, the answer is yes.
All right, I'm going to make the motion that, well, what you started,
Okay.
that we fix his QA to make it current, using the check from 2017 that was one day past his 90, to make it up to current, and then he'll have whatever renewals coming up now
For his QA.
for his QA. Nothing to do with the company.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fraker and a second by Mr. Cockcroft to give him grace over the 2017 payment that was one day late and allow him to pay his current QA that's due so that he doesn't lose his grandfather QA. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You've been given that grace for
Okay,
that.
thank you, Madam Chairman.
Now, do we need to discuss the business, or will that come up at a later date?
I believe what's before the board is just the QA license at this time. I think that, to be completely fair to everyone, the staff needs some time to review the company to figure out what needs to be done and determine if Mr. Sneed needs to make another appearance before the board.
And he legally operate his alarm business right now with it in the status of expired.
I'm going to tell the alarm board that license expired 9/30 of 16 and it has not been renewed.
Technically, you're operating an unlicensed business.
That's what I was saying. If it was a possibility that you could vote like a 2/3 votes, what I think Robert's Rules of Order, to add something to the agenda and address that.
It would be my that the board, I'm not sure that you all have the information you need to make a determination as to whether or not to extend that beyond that two renewal cycles. That's new information. We don't know the circumstances as to why the company was not renewed. I think the board and the staff to be able to present you with all the relevant information to make a decision on that.
So we won't take any action on the business end of it today.
That would be my advice, but of course it is the board's discretion what you all decide to do.
Well, I can speak to the issue why it wasn't renewed. It's just a failure on my part and either not seeing a letter in the mail but I was told that there was a computer system.
You've been in business by your own self-admission. You've been in business now for what, 20-something years?
I think 30-something since the 80s.
So that is something that is not new. It's something that should have been.
Right. Well, as I began, I've got several irons in the fire. And
That's not our concern, Mr. Sneed. I understand, but sometimes you get too many irons in the fire and you spread your.
My wife tells me that.
My concern is the fact that you're operating a business, an alarm business, and you're not licensed to do so.
Well, I'm
that we will
licensed at the city.
defer. I think do y'all agree with Ashley that we take no action? Do we need a motion on that, or just defer it?
I still have my city and county licenses. It's just something about the state that allows.
But I believe, Mr. Sneed, I believe what they're saying is, since you don't have a license, you're not in the alarm business.
We are supposed to
It
do what's
would
in the
be
public's best
considered
interest, and I don't think it's in the
unlicensed
public's best interest for him to not service his customers.
Okay,
But
So if the board is deciding to do that, I think the question for the board at this point is, are you going to allow him to renew based on that expired license? Or are you going to require him to reapply, which is what the statute would say he needs to do since his license expired in 2016?
company would need to reapply, like he would get a new license number and have to put new numbers on.
That would be correct.
Well, we would.
Unless there's some administrative function that can be done.
I do my best to let them keep their C number, because of that. They invested so much money in whatever, putting it on their trucks or what, I don't know his circumstances. But that would be quite easy. He just need to reapply, pay the fee, pull the information that we need from the old file. I believe we'd have to have current insurance. There's a few little things that we would need, but we would work with Mr. Sneed.
Action for that.
No, we can do that in our office.
And that could happen today, couldn't it, or within a matter of days?
He can submit a new application as early as today, yes. I don't think that requires board action for him to submit a new application. And if the staff and Cody is able to transfer that license number, I don't think it affects his business on a day-to-day, but I think the board would need updated information, or the board staff, in order to effectuate a renewed application.
And I would also need for the board to say we would go ahead and issue, he would make application. I don't really foresee any reason why it wouldn't be approved, but he would continue to service his customers. And into unlicensed activity.
You're already reviewing unlicensed activity.
Yes, ma'am. Scott, was making a point there, so I would want to make sure that the board would say that. So I don't want to bring Mr. Sneed back in here for unlicensed activity, and you stand here and you know what's transpiring. If I'm going to try to help him by letting him reapply.
My personal opinion, I don't know if that. So we've got the QA fixed. Then we just need to get his license, pay the fee, pay the 2 renewals, and go on as business as usual.
Can you take care of all that today, Mr. Sneed?
Yes, I have my checkbook and driver's license with me, yes.
Okay.
I guess we already
have
that.
a proof of
No, he's reapplying. He
So
has
you
to
need
supply a new proof of insurance, unless it's in the packet. I don't know.
It's in there.
It's new insurance, okay.
Well, it's current.
It's current, okay.
Yeah, I've got my license certificates. I thought I sent that in with QA.
Well, you might have had, I was only concerned with the QA. I didn't look that much at the company.
Yeah, there is a copy of the current policy that doesn't expire until August 27th of 19.
Okay.
For Springfield Alarm and Safe.
It's just about expired.
Hey, just about don't count.
Make sure you renew your insurance.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming up in 2 months, in case you don't have a reminder.
That's right. I changed companies a couple of years ago. Got cheaper.
Have you got your address and all of the other required information up to date? I know there was a question about the home address versus the business address. Have you got all of those ducks in order?
I guess we'll just have to see what she has on file. She said that my home address was now.
Okay, what we would do, if it's okay with Mr. Sneed, would it be today, I can have one of our staff take him into the computer room, and we can do all that today if you have the time, or you can come.
Yes, we'll take care. I guess it,
And we'll
I
see
guess
what
it
we
needs to be
need.
a mailing address at home and instead of uptown, because the postman uptown, he is pretty bad about, because on the square, everybody gets everybody's mail on the square because the postman's.
Okay, we'll talk
carrying
about that. We'll see what's the best way to handle that.
Okay, so our business with Mr. Sneed is finished for today.
Okay, let me just make sure I'm not looking at unlicensed activity.
I don't think we're looking at that at this moment. Do you have any other employees, or is it you, or?
Years ago, I used to. I haven't had an employee in a long time.
Because if he doesn't go anywhere or do anything before he gets goes upstairs, then he's not doing any unlicensed activity from now till, I mean,
Okay.
he has been, but we're not.
That's what, I'm going to do whatever the board instructs me to do, and I'll help Mr. Sneed in any manner that we can.
But he's going to do that today, correct?
And it
I
may-
would say either today or at least we need to finish up by tomorrow. Barring
Yeah,
any
you're
computer
starting the
glitch, we don't
process.
know
He's
what we're
going
going to get
upstairs
into,
to
Mr.
handle
Sneed,
it
but we'll
today.
try to help him
I'm
today.
I'm
The wheels
rebuilding a
have
rental
to turn.
house today, so
Are
I'm
you-
not going to work on alarms today.
Okay.
You're going to do what?
He's not going to work on alarms today.
I'm not working on alarms today.
But you're going to do your application process.
That's
today.
right, that's right.
All right. You've got your QA license. Once you take care of everything administratively, you're going to take care of everything business-wise, administratively.
Yes, I guess I'll get all the mailing addresses back to my house, because it is pretty bad up around the square, the courthouse square. I get people's mail all the time, so that could be a reason why I get in there. But anyway, we'll get the mailing address.
I mean, is that where your business is located?
It is on the square. It's been there for 25,
Okay,
30
he can give
years.
me his mailing address. We still need a physical address,
Yes.
which will be hidden over here for in case we have to send an investigator. But now, I'm asking Administrative Manager Mark Aming to operate the equipment, and Megan Mosley will go with Mr. Sneed and get him started on our computer system. If that's okay
Thank
with
you,
Mr.
Mr. Sneed.
Megan, would you please assist Mr.
I appreciate it, Board.
Okay, administrative matters.
Just a second, yes, ma'am. Where am I at now? Okay, so. It appears that our next appearance has not come in. Mr. Sneed here. Right, are we moving down to administrative matters now? Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
We've already sent out these monthly reviews. I would like to take a moment, you won't find that in the packet, but we did have a meeting yesterday on the Hill. It was a sunset from Contractors Board. Alarm Systems Contractors Board. Board Chair, Vice Chair Keith Harvey was kind enough to go with me to the Hill. Sunset, there were questions. We answered the question. They would like to see us back in December. They did not roll us over yet. They have additional questions. And in December, I may have to ask all the board to attend. They did ask me about the chair. Asked me who it was. I did explain Vivian Hickson. Want to know about the background. We did the background, and then they said we're good, but they wanted to speak to a member of the industry, and that's whenever. A couple of questions. But I just wanted to let you know we did do that. That's not in your monthly report. It'll show that in the next monthly report.
Were there specific questions why you have to go back?
Yes.
Executive session.
Best or?
What?
We can address those in an executive session at the conclusion of the board meeting, if that's okay.
We're going to move right on now, if you would, to the budget review. You have that on your packet, I should say. As of the end of March, we have an ending balance of $108,248. Legislative update.
Other than Cody mentioning the sunset hearing on Tuesday, we don't have any other legislation to update the board on at this time.
All right. We'll move right on to the request for an extension. That request is from Securitas Electronic Security. They asked for their first extension on April the 23rd of 19. I granted that one to replace their qualifying agent. They had some difficulties, so they've asked me to come back to the board, and they would like to ask for a second 90-day extension to replace their qualifying agent.
Extension I see in the letters due to the fire QA candidate having a medical issue.
They didn't say whether they were going to wait till that's maybe cleared up, or they might try to find someone else. They just asked for the 90-day extension.
It does say they have identified somebody. They just want additional time for that.
Get in the position to take the exams or exam.
Do they have a QA for other categories? This is just for their fire?
Yes, sir, they do. It's just this classification.
Okay. I make a motion to grant a second 90-day extension for their QA.
If we have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft, a second by Mr. Harvey to grant this company's second 90-day extension for QA, all in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
All right, we have one other here. I did not classify this criminal history with the other ones because they were appearances. This is not an another Exhibit A. We do have his written explanation. You have the charges in there. He also is listed as Defenders Company. Charges was being seen on the agenda today for your company. Well, if we have any questions, the qualifying agent's here. What is this?
Surprise.
Pop quiz.
I didn't get the letters.
Okay. No, we are just reviewing the criminal record. This is just a review of the record. But I'm saying if there was something else that we need to look at, we're fortunate enough to have the qualifying agent of the company already with us. Looks like we had charges in 1991 and again in 2007 for the same. It's rather old, but I wonder record itself. And like I say, he does have his written explanation. Anytime I see anything other than marijuana, I try to bring it to the board.
that what you're after is a motion to approve his
Yeah.
or deny?
His employee application. Yes, sir.
Well, based on what I see, it's all old stuff. Two items over 10 years ago. I make a motion that we approve his request.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fraker, a second by Mr. Richard to approve this employee registration application. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's approved.
That's all the criminal histories or the appearances that we have. Right down to the education report, if you'd like. Apparently, we're experiencing some glitches, so I think we're just on and off. So we're going to try to keep going. Rely on your paperwork. First thing we have, I'm going to read this. It says alarm.com is currently approved with your department for their CEUs. All they want to do is change the name of some courses. We have one that's going to be coming in the System Enhancement Module, SEM Vista. They're going to submit that course separately. I wasn't going to read off all those, but they're taken off, as you can see the numbers behind them, 201. I didn't have a problem with that. They're still an approved course. They're just changing the name of it.
Would we still give it the same number so that if
Yes.
someone's taking it,
Yes.
they can't take it again with the new name and within the period?
It's still going to keep the same number that it had, but there will be a notation out to the side that there has been a name change. And actually, it's not that big of a name change. It's just taking out the 201 behind the back of it. But I wanted you to see that, and if you had any questions, let me know, and because I was going to approve that unless the board says differently.
I don't see any problem with that.
Well, it says we have also added an additional course, System Enhancement Module, SEM Vista.
Yes, ma'am, that's the one I said that's going to come later. They have to not send it to us, so you don't have it to look at.
I'm with you.
Do it as regular education when it comes in.
Okay. Ashley, do we need to vote on that? Just, okay.
I had all the Comcast and Stay Safe.
Okay. Do we want to take one at a time then to go to, Scott, would you like to go first?
Mine might be a little more complicated. We might get the others out of the way first.
Well, okay, we can do that. Hey, look like Lou, you've got one on it, the AMG. They wanted 2 hours of continuing education.
Yes, 2 hours in CCTV. The course looked good. Their certificate was included, so it's good to go.
Jump over to Keith if you're ready, Keith. You had the 2 Bosch.
The only change I would want to make, the one, I think you took the one back that, I had 2 of them. The larger one here, they were asking for 1 hour of continuing ed in Berg, and certainly is qualified for that. The other one, they were asking for all, being initial application and everything. I don't think it was a very short course, so I don't think it was suffice for anything but continuing ed and maybe employee training, but.
All right, so we're looking at this Bosch Security, FPD-7024 Professional Online. They wanted 4 hours, so you say that's okay for continuing education?
Yes.
I wouldn't think just 4 hours would be good for, would be sufficient for employee training.
Talked about. So I think what we're saying, we're going to honor the 4 hours for the only continuing education, not the employee or initial. We need some more additional information for those two.
You had Paxton.
I had Paxton. The court, Paxton is page, yeah, somewhere in there. Page 168 is the start of it.
Incorporated, now they wanted 9 hours of initial and continuing education.
I don't see that we would do initial because we don't actually have a license for access control. That's not one of our classifications.
Plus, typically, the initial is like a 2-day proctored class or something.
So I have no problem using it for continuing education, but 8 hours, not 9 hours. It is a pretty intense course of information. You can get overloaded pretty quick. I've actually been through it myself, so.
All right, so for this one here, for Paxton Access Incorporated, we're going to say we're going to approve it for continuing education for 8 hours and not 9 hours, but we're going to say no on the initial. It's not
Correct.
sufficient. They
Correct.
can real.
I'd like to look at the other separate, so I'm going to make a motion that we approve.
Who's got, let me, before you do, who's got Stay Safe?
I have all
You
the
have
other,
all of those?
All
Okay.
those.
So I make a motion to approve for continuing ed, the hours requested for AMG, Bosch, both Bosch Security, and the Paxton Access class. That's everything other than Comcast and Stay Safe.
With the changes noted in the record?
Correct.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft to accept the previous courses that's been discussed. And now we need a second.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Fraker. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Those courses are approved with the moderate changes.
Okay. Now for this other part. This is actually 2 courses that have been submitted 4 different ways for with different the courses for both are the same. Stay Safe and Comcast are both done by Roy with Comcast, Roy Pollock. Some of them don't even, the paperwork doesn't match the course name. I think it's all here. It's just there were so many submitted.
Do I need to recuse?
You're not going to be able to vote.
Okay, okay.
If the information provided for an 8-hour class is like less than 1 sheet of paper. So I don't see that it's enough information.
Which one are we dealing with? The very first Comcast understanding the low voltage, or which one are we dealing with?
Well, that's what I'm.
It's listed
That's the one you're
twice.
having, no, that's the one
he's
we're
got
having
it.
problems with.
He's got it listed as an online class, and then
it's a-
an in-person class, and then he's got it listed twice as Comcast and twice as Stay Safe. The issue is it's all one class, and someone could theoretically take the class 4 times, and it would have different class numbers. So I have a problem approving one class with 4 different approvals for one thing. Secondly, I don't think there's enough information here to approve it. For theoretically an 8-hour class, I've got 8 lines that's the information that's telling me what's in an 8-hour class. I just don't think that's enough there.
All right.
And that's so basically it's, I have issues with the multiple submittals of the same class, and then there's not enough information.
Okay, he submitted them for the same class, but under 2 different names?
4 different names. Well, he's got the same name, but he's got them.
I got those, and then Stay. He did the Comcast, and then come right behind that and said Stay Safe Enterprises. They're both the
Some of
same
the
thing.
paperwork it's got commingled Comcast and Stay Safe between the two. someone had submitted as Comcast, and it says stay safe in the paperwork. But nonetheless, I don't think there's enough information to approve it, but I think there's an issue. What is everybody's feeling about, how do we deal with, even if he wants to be able to present it online and in person?
It's still one class.
Right.
It's just how he's administering.
And he wants to do it as he's wanting, on some of it, he requests initial application. Some of it's just continuing ed, but shouldn't be initial application. I don't think it's long enough for that. I would make a motion to deny it as presented, but I think we still need to discuss how we might guide him on what this needs to be if it comes back to us.
I know, Lou, you can't vote, but can I ask him a question, since he is under that? Stay Safe, is that another name now for Comcast?
No. Stay Safe is Roy's company.
Stay Safe is Roy's company. Okay. That's the first time I've ever heard this name, so that was a new one to me.
So do we want to put these on hold and ask for it to be clarified?
Plus, I think Scott said that he wasn't in agreement with, 8 hours for
Yeah, there's some, if y'all want
employee
to
and an
glance at
initial.
some of those, but that's.
Mycroft, I think you said your question was, how does the board want to address when one class is submitted for both classroom hours as well as online hours? Will the board see
And
that
under two different companies,
right?
too.
Will the board see that as two different options for licensees to obtain those hours?
I don't think he needs to go to the extent that he's done. I would think we could approve it being an online class and an in-person class. So we wouldn't have to go to that length. He's asking for, most of it, he's asking for continuing ed. And they probably would be fine for that, but we need to know, we need more content than just one line describing the student will know X at the end of an hour.
Okay, then we just need to get back to him and get some clarification. All right, we can do that.
What's everyone else's thought on it being submitted 4 different times, and it'd have 4 class numbers, and in theory, a person could take the same class 4 times and
Get credit for 4 Cs.
Of course, unless you work for Comcast, you're not going to get the Comcast class, I would assume.
True, I guess you could do, and I don't know if he's planning on doing an online class, or, I mean, that's if he's setting up a website to do that, but someone could take his in-person class and online class, but somebody could work for Comcast and take it for the company and then take it through his system.
I think that's where we're going to leave it. We're going to have to get back with him. Okay.
I made a motion to deny, nobody seconded or anything.
Okay. Still a motion on the table. Okay.
Is that where we,
Yeah,
so you made a motion to deny it, I'll second that at this.
Hey, we have a
Whichever we
motion by
have.
Mr. Cockcroft, a second by Mr. Fraker to deny the Comcast and
Stay Safe.
Stay Safe
Safe.
courses.
Does he have to pay
Pending.
fees to submit them? Okay, so
Further.
it doesn't cost him, because I'm not trying to
is
make
for
it.
free.
Okay, I'm not trying to make it cost him anything.
No, it's not cost
Whether
prohibitive.
we
other than paper.
postpone it or deny it or whatever.
Finished?
Yes, sorry.
Right in the middle of a motion.
I'm sorry.
Take off. We have a motion to deny the Stay Safe and the Comcast courses as presented pending further information. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? They're denied for now.
All right.
Mikey.
Now, you still got more there, don't you have, don't you, Scott? Or
Nope,
did
that's
that
all I
go-
had. That was 8 classes, or it's 2
okay.
classes 8 times. Or
You're good at reviewing.
I had to print it out to figure it out, because I kept
Like,
looking,
yeah,
it was
we-
like, this is the same, this is the same, this is the same. It's like, so I had to lay them all out on tables to figure out what was going on.
Well, we did too. And we just finally said, I think the board needs to look at. You're just a little bit more to know more about it than we would. All right, so we did the education. I mean, yeah.
Unfinished business is next.
That's correct. If you'll look at your iPads, at one of our prior board meetings, the board requested that I send a letter to the city of Memphis in response to some recovery fees they were charging citizens. I sent that letter, and I wanted to bring to the board's attention the response I got from the chief legal officer for the city of Memphis.
What's your opinion on their response with the fact that they are charging this recovery fee only to alarm users? They don't charge this for domestic cases. They don't charge it for any other police car roll. They do not charge. They're only charging it for false alarms. So to say it's a cost recovery, they're focusing it strictly on alarms. So
My honest opinion, I think it's a clever use of definition. I think in practice it is the fee that the board was trying to avoid them collecting. By the letter of the law, the chief legal officer is not wrong in his assessment. I think there's a little legally what they can do and practically what they are doing. He's following the letter of the law, but
he's choosing to only do it for alarm users.
Right.
Though.
But unfortunately, in this instance, our law does specifically define certain things, and they have carved out something else. And I know, Mr. Fraker, I think Cody said you brought it to her attention, Public Chapter 315 that was passed this session, that is adding to our law. It does say, notwithstanding subdivision E1, which is talking about the false alarm fees, notwithstanding subdivision E1 or a charter, ordinance, or resolution to the contrary, a county or municipality shall not enact any legislation, ordinance, or resolution requiring an alarm systems contractor or alarm business to pay for, collect, or be responsible for fines or fees relative to false alarms, false alarm dispatches, alarm permits, or alarm renewal permits. The thing about this particular legislation, that goes to the alarm company, it doesn't go to the city. So I think I'd have to do some more digging and some more research to figure out what the board's options are as far as responding to this letter, or if there's anything we can do. But I did want to bring the response to the board for further discussion if need be.
So this new legislation, I think you said Public Chapter 315, that effectively removes anyone in the alarm systems contractor's business from being responsible for these recovery fee.
That's correct.
It doesn't make these recovery fees illegal as defined by the.
Does not.
Now, could I address that just a second?
Yes.
The main purpose of that was that the city was requiring the alarm contractor to do all the renewal permits, requiring that they collect all the money every year, and but there was no enforcement. There was no way for the alarm company to collect the money if the customer didn't want to pay it. But that's what that relates to, is the city cannot make the alarm company they never were charging the alarm company for this cost of recovery. They are charging the end user. It's just that we don't feel that, I don't personally feel that their cost of recovery is fair when they don't do it for any other police response.
Like I said, I would have to look into more research, do more research, try to figure out if there are any other options for the board to respond to that. Because like I said, as written, we have defined alarm fee in a specific way. And if that is going to hold true, then we may be at a dead end on that.
Oh, okay. I believe the next is, I don't,
However you want to go with new business.
yeah, with new business, okay. Governor Lee has reached out to the industry and to the associations and to us as well in order to seek for applicants for any vacant positions on our boards or commissions. As it stands right now, the alarm board, of course, does not have any vacancies, but we have, and I do, hopefully that's on your packet, we have put on our website a direct link to the application should you know of someone who would like to be appointed to a board or a commission. We've made it easier for them. They just go right out on whatever board they want to, and right there it is. You just fill out your application and it submits it to the proper channels to make this process a whole lot smoother and easier for individuals to apply. But I wanted to bring that to your attention. It does not affect this board, the alarm board, but it does affect my private investigation polygraph commission.
Questions about that?
I think the only other piece of new business, I think it is Exhibit B on your iPads, will just be a refresher of the Sunshine Law. As a regulatory board, Governor Lee has requested that we provide this refresher course to all of our boards and commissions. I did provide, I believe Shauna sent out this PowerPoint to the board prior to, and I believe you all acknowledged. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to go really quickly through. If there's any questions as I'm going through the presentation, please stop me. The first thing to explain is what's an open record, because we're subject to open records and open meetings pursuant to statute. The short answer is an open record is everything. Anything that you send, any publication, papers, letters, maps, books, all of it is a public record. If I receive a public records request as your attorney, I look at it, I determine if there's any personal identifying information, I redact that, but then I have to release it. That includes emails amongst the board. So that's often why when Cody sends things out by email, I know it's very rare because she likes for everything to happen in the open, as she should. That's usually why everybody's BCC'd, because if everyone is on there at the same time, it's essentially an open meeting, and it is discoverable by people that request that. So, like I said, everything's an open meeting. If there are two or more board members discussing board business or having a discussion that could lead to board action, that would be considered a board meeting. That's part of the reason why Cody has instituted the policy of, if you recuse yourself, remove yourself from the room. If the two, we're not saying that you all cannot go out to dinner. We're not saying that. If you are at dinner, please do not discuss board business. Please do not discuss action that could lead to board business, because that would be in violation of the Public Meetings Act. Should that discussion take place and it is not disclosed and then again discussed in public, that would nullify whatever action the board took. So we have to make sure that that information is discussed in public in front of, and the way we do that, we have our court reporter, of course, we have it videoed, and we provide that transcript when requested. The only time the board can meet outside of the Public Meetings Act is an executive session. They occur when one or more members meets with the attorney and the board is under lawsuit or has been threatened with suit, or the members ask the attorney questions related to the suit, which kind of leads to why we're going to have a discussion post this meeting. Like I said, the board cannot deliberate about any specific matter in executive session. Anything that can lead to board action needs to be discussed out in the open. Again, just to reiterate, anything discussed with more than one board member, that's considered an open record. Additionally, and I think we've done this a couple of times in this board, if we find that we will not have a quorum in person, we can communicate via electronic methods, and I believe we've done that once or twice on this board since I've been the program attorney. At that point, everything needs to be a roll call vote. This board is really strong in adhering to all of that. I guess the only other thing that I want to bring to the board's attention regarding notice of our meetings, which Cody does post on the website prior to the meeting dates, and I know she posts the meeting dates a year in advance. We have to determine if there is adequate public notice of all of our meetings. There's a three-prong test. The contents of the notice must reasonably describe the purpose of the meeting or the proposed action to be taken. A lot of times that's at the very top of our agenda. It tells when it's posted and what the purpose of it is for. Must be posted at a time sufficiently in advance of the actual meeting in order to give citizens both an opportunity to become aware of and to attend the meeting. And we do have people that attend our meetings. And finally, the notice must be posted in a location where a member of the community could become aware of such notice. Again, like I said, we do post that on our website. I believe it is posted outside the door today as well. Just to reiterate, like I said, if anything is done outside of the Sunshine Law or the Open Records or Open Meetings Act, any action taken by the board outside of that would be null and void. So you could take an action, people could begin to respond to that action, and then we find out that it was in violation of the Open Meetings Act. It nullifies anything that they've done. Like I said, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You see my email, and at the end of this PowerPoint, that is the legal direct line, but you also have direct line to Cody, and she has an easy access to me also. But if you had any questions, I can answer those now.
Excellent job, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. For new business, unfinished business?
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay. Farm Systems Contractors Board is adjourned.
All right. You might want to stay in your positions, please.
We don't get to stand up.
Okay. Did we turn off? Are we off? Wait a moment, please, till we can get the recording turned off. It's suggested this is your first meeting, isn't it?
First meeting for
And-
lawn contractors.
Yeah.
I had a contractors meeting last month.
Yeah, we're done. Was it more exciting?